What's going on, guys? It's your boy Luke here for another early prize picks preview for tonight's NBA slate. We're going to be covering my top 4 props early on the board while there's only 2 or 3 games active there to try and add to our cards early before some of these lines move, and of course to sprinkle in later on. Yesterday's picks in this same video were absolute fire. We ended up going 4 for 4. We ended up hitting our power play, a bunch of different flex plays where I mixed in 2 or 3 of those props, and overall led to a night of over $1,000 of profit for me. So ended up hitting all of our props. It's pretty easy to have a big night when that happens. Of course, we had the Melo over 20.5 real points that ended up hitting. We had the Evan Mobley over 8.5 rebounds that ended up hitting relatively early in that game. The one sweat was the KPJ over 14.5 real points. He didn't hit that until late in the fourth quarter, but it at least ended up coming through. And of course, the Tatum over 4.5 assists. He hit that nearly in the first half. So it was a comfortable night, I'd say, right? Most of our cards were hit in the first 3 quarters of the game. The only real sweat that KPJ points, but when that ended up coming through, it turned into quite a bonkers night. And while the board wasn't complete yesterday, we were still able to find those 4 picks. And even though we're in the same situation today, only 2 or 3 games active out of the 6 games tonight, we're still going to be able to find some value, right? Our projections were spot on yesterday. We were able to find 10 to 15% edges, and on the board today, we're looking at similar numbers, right? So nothing that's jumping off the board that's just drastically inaccurate. Again, that tends to happen more of some of the injury news that'll come out, some of the lines that are moving, players rolled in or out, that type of thing, opportunity that's given to backup players. But we don't have that right now, right? We're just going based on the lines that are on the board. I'm just using a pure numbers approach to try and attack this. Before we hop into the props, really want to mention the partnership that Gundacker and I have with Prize Picks. So if you're new to Prize Picks, haven't already gone over there, join the website, put a little bit of money in there. Make sure you guys use code Gundacker for a 100% deposit match. So whatever you put in, you're going to get that matched by the site, which gives you guys even more bullets to fire away. So make sure you go ahead and do that if you haven't already signed up there. And also, if you haven't already subscribed to my personal YouTube channel, first off, what are you waiting for? Why haven't you gone ahead and done that yet? There is a link down in the description to go ahead and do so to catch all of the content that I'm posting, whether it's for props, for DFS, all of that. For the NBA, golf, football, MMA, I've got you guys completely covered. With all of that out of the way though, let's hop into tonight's picks. All right, guys, on the screen, you guys can see the prize picks board for tonight. And we're going to go ahead and start off with a few points props. First off with Fred VanVleet's points prop at 20.5 points. I'm going to be taking the over here. If we take a look at the last 5 games, he hasn't quite been his normal self. You see he's averaging just 19.2 points, but that's also why the props where it's at, because for the year, he's averaging 21.4 points per game. And in a game I expect to be extremely competitive between, of course, the Raptors and the Bulls. Both sides have stud power, both relatively evenly matched teams. I expect him to do a lot of the scoring. In closing time, he's taking a lot of those free throws. Of course, he's the clutch shooter for that team as well. Somebody who, again, is averaging over 21.4 points per game. So for him to hit the over at 20.5, you really just need any semblance of a good matchup. And in a game that has a relatively tight spread, that I expect to be one of the more entertaining games tonight, going to be somebody I'm taking the over on. I am projected right now for 21.9 points, which isn't all too much of an edge, right? You're looking at right around a 10% edge. But yesterday, it was the same thing with some of those props, right? We got to take what we're having handed to us. Some of these guys like a DeMar DeRozan, where I have him projected right now for 26 points, it's a half a point edge, right? It's not all that much at all. So it's not like it's a pure lock or anything like that, but I like the game environment. He's averaging more points than that per game this year, which makes it somebody that I will be targeting. Next up, we have the under on Devin Booker's real points. And I'm usually somebody to try and target a lot of overs, but when lines get egregious like they are here with Devin Booker at nearly 30 points, I'm got to start taking the under, right? So if we take a look at the recent box scores, you can see why he's priced up, right? Averaging 33.6 points per game over his last 5 outings. Before the year, averaging under 25 points per game. In fact, it's 24.5 points per game this year for the Suns, which is excellent, right? That's still top 15 in the entire NBA. But to project him for 29.5 points, even if it's a good matchup against a team like the Hawks, it's not going to be something I'm investing in. In fact, it's going to be something that I'm fading, right? I'm taking the under here. It's no diss to Devin Booker, but more often than not, per the numbers, he's going to be score closer to 26.5, 27 points tonight. And with a 2.5 point edge, 3 points, if you want to count the whole entire hook right there up to 30, that makes him one of the better plays on the slate, right? Because you're dealing with right around an 11, 12% edge in that type of circumstance. The Van Vliet line is closer, again, we said before, closer to 9, 10%. Both of them are pretty good plays, right? They're going to be in my cards later on tonight. They're, of course, already in the power play that I've already fired on these 4 bets here. And 2 of my favorite plays, at least early on the board. Next, let's move over to assists, where there's another egregious line here, and it's going to be Chris Paul. So let's go and talk about the under here. Just like a Devin Booker, right? He's been an absolute fire the last 5 games, averaging 13.2 assists per game, and that's despite putting up just 5 against the Utah Jazz. So, of course, he has been putting up a lot of that production, but for the year, averaging just over 10 assists per game, right? That's a solid 2 less than his projection. And even though it's a solid matchup, when we're dealing with fine lines like we have here on Prize Picks, when people's lines get inflated like this, I'm always going to be targeting the under. I think it's a little bit risky to be taking the under on both of those players together independently in flex play cards, that type of thing. Perhaps a little bit of a better strategy because if one guy tends to have less usage, the other guy is going to have more. That's how it works with the Phoenix Suns team over there. They're 1A, 1B in terms of their offensive options. But even if you want to pair them together and just say that the lines are inflated, right, they're going to have a great game, but not get quite to these crazy numbers, you could take them together, right? So that's what I'm going to be doing. I don't have any problems doing that. But if you wanted to try and avoid some of that correlation that can cause problems when you're taking unders from the same team or, of course, overs from the same team, then go ahead and just differentiate and go elsewhere. Next up, we have Nikola Vucevic here at 3.5 assists. You can see over the last 5 games, he's averaging 4.2. I'm not really going to put too much stock into that. For the year, though, averaging 3.9 assists per game. So that is over where we have it at 3.5 right here. The really key factor here is, again, I expect this Toronto versus Chicago game to be extremely competitive, right? You're dealing with studs on both sides, teams that I think are extremely well matched. The spread's indicative of this supposed to being a close game. You have healthy bodies on both sides. And Vucevic, when he's in a close game down the stretch, he's almost more of a facilitator than a shooter, right? He's not somebody who's going to create his own shot. He's not that athletic specimen, right? He can take 3-pointers if he's open, but down the stretch, you're dealing with defense that's a lot more focused. You're not really going to be leaving Vuce wide open. So what does he do? He facilitates, right? When he's getting that extra attention because it's going down the stretch, he tends to assist a lot. So if we have a close game here, I even more like his chances to hit the over there. You can see over his last 5 games, he's hit the over 3 of the last 5 times. He had, of course, the ace 8 assist game the last time against Toronto. Who are they playing tonight? The Toronto Raptors. That's right. So maybe there's something about the matchup that makes him get more assists. I'm not enough of a technical basketball guy to be telling you that. I'm more of a numbers guy than anything, but I can tell you that he's had that past success and for the year averaging more than these lines. So in general, for each strategy, I don't love any of the lines, just like yesterday, right? You're dealing with 10 to 12% edges at their very best. So I do have one power play with all 4 together. Of course, that's kind of how I'm going to be tracking these picks, but I'm mostly going to be using them in flex plays later on. When we have some of the injury news that comes out, some of the lineups that are announced, maybe surprise starters, that type of thing, where people are either getting bumps in usage or, of course, bumps down in usage. That's where I'm going to be targeting a majority of my cards. That's where we can find 15 to 20% edges. Sprinkle in a few of these other picks as fillers to get it to the 4 or 5 pick threshold. And fire away some cards that way. I've got for today's picks. Before you go on and get out of here, first off, make sure you like the video, and of course go ahead and let me know down in the comments what your favorite prop on the board is. I always love to hear from you guys. It doesn't have to be something that I mentioned in the video. Could be completely off of my radar, or perhaps the other side of a prop I'm taking. I'm willing to hear that type of debate. Of course, want to hear from you guys down there below, so make sure you go ahead and do that. Until next time, we're going to have a few more previews here on the channel this week. I'm thinking something on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday as well, so make sure to go ahead and look out for that. Hopefully we're able to go 4 for 4 again. That would be pretty sweet. Have 2 great days in a row would really add on to the bankroll. I mean, yesterday was a pretty special day. I'm hitting literally every card that I entered. But if we could do that 2 days in a row, that would just be nuts. So Good luck to everyone out there. Good luck with all of your prop hunting. One thing I'll also mention as well is that Gundacker will be live this afternoon. That'll be at 2 p.m. Eastern time, going over the prop market, right? So as more and more props are added to the board, he'll be going through some of his favorite leans for the day. And of course, at 3 p.m. Eastern time, he'll be covering the regular DFS slate. So as per usual, regular content and live streams to come this afternoon. Make sure you subscribe to this channel if you haven't already, so you don't miss any of that content to come. Good luck, as I said before, and let's get this cash.